Indie games might not get all of the sales and publicity that major AAA games get on the Nintendo Switch, but I'll tell you one thing. Indie games have made some of the best gaming experiences on the Nintendo Switch and are a vital part and the reason why the Switch has done so well. Being able to take a really cool game with great mechanics anywhere that you want is huge for a platform like the Nintendo Switch. So in this video, we're going to break down the top 25 indie games on the Nintendo Switch that you should absolutely play, but just my personal favorites as well. Now, before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, or click that notification bell to get my videos first. All right, coming in at number 25 is CrossCode for the Nintendo Switch. This game personifies what an action RPG indie game should be. It's got fantastic bright visuals, it's got a great story, it's got good writing with nice humor, it's got incredible controls, it's got a lot of upgrades and great RPG mechanics. I love the boss battles in this game, the art and the style that they do with the boss battles, how blisteringly fast it is, and just the level design and layout reminds me of a lot of the old school action RPGs, but also turned up to like level 10 when it comes to the speed and the craziness of the combat in this game and what happens. You guys are seeing it right here. So if you haven't checked out CrossCode on the Nintendo Switch, you absolutely need to play this game. It is a phenomenal pick up and play independent RPG, and it's one of those games that you might just go back to even after you're done, or you just might go back to it over and over to experience some of the stuff in this game because it's kind of wild. Next up at number 24, Wargroove from Chucklefish. Now, Wargroove has a sequel coming out in 2023, which is awesome, Wargroove 2, but Wargroove 1 is a great tactical RPG. If you love Fire Emblem, if you love Advance Wars, these type of games, then Wargroove is right up your alley. And Chucklefish has been fantastic on the Nintendo Switch. It's also got a great story, great controls as well, good quality of life features built in for that type of game. So if you're looking for a smaller scale, but still massive on the gameplay, strategy RPG to play, check out Wargroove on the Nintendo Switch. Coming in at number 23, Ollie Ollie World. This is a skateboarding game that takes the Ollie Ollie formula and takes it to a whole new level on the Nintendo Switch. And what I loved about Ollie Ollie World is that it's not a traditional skateboarding game. Obviously, it's not like Tony Hawk or anything like that, but it has a flow to it that reminds me of the old school skateboarding games from back in the day, and a little bit of Tony Hawk mixed in, but with a cool adventure kind of put to it and really colorful graphics and fun characters. I really loved a lot of my time with Ollie Ollie World. So if you're looking for a really dope, cool, streamlined sports skateboarding game, I know it's a handful there, then Ollie Ollie World is your game. Number 22, Undertale from Toby Fox and 8-4. Undertale is one of those games that you guys all know it. A lot of you guys hate it, but a lot of you guys love it. And Undertale, what makes it so good is how different it is, right? This is some type of, I would say, inspiration from Earthbound and older RPGs. There's certain ways to where you don't have to kill anybody in battle. You can just do a pacifist route. There's many different types of ways that you can play the game. And I don't really need to explain Undertale to a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys have already tried it out, but for those who haven't, it's really a trippy and unique experience, story-wise and atmosphere-wise, that no other game has on the Nintendo Switch. And I would argue that no other game has, just period. Undertale is a very unique game with a very kind of weird fan base, but once you play the game, you'll understand why it accrued all the sales and the popularity that it did. And the music is absolutely just incredible. One of the best things about the game is the music. But yeah, replay values there, the graphics are charming, and the gameplay is addictive for the most part. So Undertale comes in at number 22. Number 21, Transistor from Supergiant Games. Supergiant's awesome, but Transistor is one of the games on this list I'll be talking about more in the future when it comes to this video. But yeah, Transistor is fantastic. It's got a great story. It's a very mellow cyberpunk type of world, and what I like about it the most is the tactical gameplay. It's got a lot of strategy and depth, but it's very simply laid out for you to upgrade, to get new things, to talk to different characters. The atmosphere and the visuals are just phenomenal in this game, and it's going to make you really think about what could happen in the future and what could happen with certain things. So that's what I loved about Transistor, and the gameplay when it comes to the controls, super smooth. Never really made a mistake when it comes to what button I'm pressing or what move I'm going to make. It was always streamlined to the point to where anytime that I messed up or I got bodied in the game, it was my fault. And that's what I love about Transistor and strategy RPGs, more like tactical type of RPGs, not quite like Fire Emblem, but you really have to plan out your strategy and how you're going to fight enemies in this game. And I loved it. Loved the visuals, loved the atmosphere, loved everything about this game. And the story is heartwarming, but also tragic at the same time. Transistor makes it to number 21 on the list. Number 20, Neon White. Now, this is an interesting game for me because I love this game, Neon White, but I really can't play it for too long before I get motion sickness. It's a first-person puzzle platforming shooter type of game where you exterminate demons in heaven, so it's pretty crazy. You collect these cool soul cards and you attack foes, then discard them to use different movement abilities. It's wild, and it's so wild to the point where it acts up my nausea when I try to play the game, which I have that with all first-person games, but this game is so good I still had to play it in bits and chunks just because I like it that much. The speedrunning aspect makes for great replay value, and once again, the only issue I had was my own personal thing with motion sickness. Outside of that, the gameplay is very fast, fluid, and fun on the Nintendo Switch, and there's just so many things to kind of go back into and play the game, and it wasn't done by some massive team or anything like that. Ben and Angel Matrix, they did a great job with this title. So coming in at number 20, Neon White. Number 19, SteamWorld Dig 2 from Image and Form, and this game was awesome. And this is probably the first indie game that I really got into on the Nintendo Switch, and for good reason. It's a mining Metroidvania type of game. You've got all sorts of cool upgrades. You can mine in the depths below, collect different stuff, go back to the surface and upgrade, almost kind of like Tears of the Kingdom a little bit there. Maybe they were looking at SteamWorld Dig 2 for some ideas. But yeah, it's got a great story. It's got some interesting characters, some cool revelations once you beat it. It's a pretty cut and dry when it comes to how everything plays out, but it's still a very fun game. Incredibly fluid, and one of the best things that I liked about this game is that it actually uses HD Rumble better than a lot of Nintendo games. A lot of first-party games you'll see in this title, HD Rumble is used incredibly well, which was interesting for a really early Nintendo Switch game. Most games did not use HD Rumble well at that point, and this game did. So if you're looking for a really cool mining Metroidvania upgrading style of game with a cool art style, SteamWorld Dig 2 is your game. Next up at number 18 is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove from Yacht Club Games, and Shovel Knight Treasure Trove has to be on this list because it packs so much content and so many things to do. If you're looking for an indie game to play, an action platformer, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, it's $40. Sometimes you can get it on sale, but man, it just has so many different things. It comes with all the DLC. You have a bunch of different characters that you can use that have different abilities. The music is phenomenal. It has tons of replay value. There's co-op in there. Really, this is the type of indie game that you want to see a lot when it comes down to it. These cool action platformers that have challenge, that have DLC, that have all sorts of content packed into it, that have different characters to use, that have cool level design, that have great music, that just has good pick up and play and have fun right away. Really good if you're traveling or if you're on a bus or if you just want to play something before you go to bed. This is the type of game, and that's what indie games do. They really have these type of games that you can just pick up and play and not have to worry about a million things coming at you or a million lines of text and dialogue. So Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, it's got the treasure trove of goodness when it comes to indie games on the Nintendo Switch, and that's why it's number 18 on my list. Now at number 17, Streets of Rage 4. What else is there to say? This game used to be a big game but it's no longer in that category because Sega does not care as much. But it's still an incredible beat 'em up. Like, it doesn't have to be a super AAA game with Sega in order for Streets of Rage to be relevant. And when I was growing up, Streets of Rage was all the rage, and it's back, and it's just as good, if not better, than it's been before in the past. You have a lot of different characters. You got a cool story that continues what we saw with the previous Streets of Rage games, but if you're new, you can just pick it up, start beating the crap out of people, and have fun. So that's what I like about Streets of Rage. That's what I love about indie games. And this game probably does it better than a lot of other games out there. I like the value proposition. I like the replay value. I like the online co-op. All of that is awesome in Streets of Rage. I love the art and the continuation of those characters. The design is just great. It reminds me of the early 90s when beat 'em ups were all the rage. So number 17, Streets of Rage, but not to be outdone. At number 16, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge from Tribute Games. This game, just like Streets of Rage, brings back the classic beat 'em up. Pick up, play, get in, body people left and right, have a lot of fun, replay value, tons of characters, online co-op. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, and with the new DLC that came out, is phenomenal. There's so many things about this game that are just so good. I love the controls though. I think that beat 'em ups, the controls have to be really good, and TMNT Shredder's Revenge nails that. It really feels whatever turtle you use like you're using that turtle and you're playing that old school game being brought back. The only issue is that it's kind of short. It's like an hour something long to beat. Didn't take me very long to beat the game, so that's kind of how beat 'em ups were back in the day. But outside of that, everything else is awesome. But because of the style, because of the flavor, because of the different characters, because of how they nailed that TMNT arcade edition, they kind of like transfer that over, but in a new type of way. I had to get it to number 16 on my list. Coming in at number 15, Into the Breach from Subset Games. This is a sleeper hit. You wouldn't expect it to be over some of the bigger titles like SteamWorld and Shovel Knight and Streets of Rage. But I'm telling you, if you are looking for an indie tactics, small end game to play, Into the Breach, you will be addicted to this. If you love Fire Emblem, if you love Advance Wars, you like games like that, this game puts you on a small map so you don't have to worry about moving all over the place, but it's kind of randomized at times, right? It's got that little randomized action to it, but it's addictive. You get into one map, you start doing things, it gets harder and harder as you go on, you get blown up, then you got to do things again. But the way that they do it is just unlike anything that I've seen in a lot of games out there. Usually with tactics games or strategy RPGs, they have these huge maps and it kind of takes a while to finish things, but not Into the Breach. It's got a really melancholy, drab story, but at the same time, it suits the atmosphere, it suits the color scheme, it suits everything with it. So if you have not played Into the Breach, you need to check it out, especially if you are into mechs and tactical RPGs and strategy RPGs. This is the game to play. Next up at number 14 is Death's Door from Acid Nerve, a phenomenal game that a lot of people kind of slept on the Nintendo Switch. It's got a really quirky, weird type of style and sense to it, but the controls and the gameplay and the upgrades and everything you get in this game as you play as this bird or whatever the heck it is, trying to be a Reaper for the most part, it's phenomenal. It's got a great sense of style. You've got a lot of different areas to go to, upgrades to collect, permanent ones to where you can increase your status and increase your prowess in battle. The writing is great as well. You'll be laughing out loud with some of the stuff that happens in this game, and it's got a really cool flow and structure as well. And I think that's going to be a common thing with a lot of the best indie games on the Switch, is that the structure is just really well done. Many times better done than AAA games out there. I think Death's Door is one of those. So if you're looking for a great action, adventure, slight RPG type of game, Death's Door is your game. Now, next up at number 13 is an old school title, at least when it comes to indie games, and that's Bastion from Supergiant Games. We see those guys once again. Bastion is a phenomenal game, and I think that Bastion, to me, I love all the different upgrades in the game, and I love the style of it, the narration when you play through, the main character design, all of that was great, and it was great when I originally played it on the Xbox 360, and I think it's even better on the Nintendo Switch. So it's really fun to see exactly how Supergiant Games has made their titles over the course. But this is the original game that they made that made me fall in love with their titles and knew that they're going to be around for a very long time. Bastion is a great game, great story, great atmosphere, once again, story structure, but it's different as the levels kind of form as you go along and you learn new things about the world and the character. It's really one of those games that you have to play in order to understand what they were trying to accomplish, and really is art. So Bastion comes in at number 13. Number 12, Tunic. Another one of these games, these action adventure type of games, isometric style. These are just super fun on the Nintendo Switch to play on that OLED screen or just on a Switch Lite. They're just great, and Tunic is no exception. You play as this little fox, little cute fox, but can absolutely murder everything on the screen if he needs to, which you will be doing that. Mixed between kind of like Zelda, a little bit of other adventure and action games. It's got a great style to it. I love what they did there. And once again, controls are super smooth, silky smooth on the Nintendo Switch. You're just going to want to keep playing over and over. It's not too long of a game. There's a lot of different areas and secrets to collect, great boss battles as well. So it's one of those games that I played like almost straight through when I first played Tunic. I absolutely loved it. So Tunic comes in at number 12. Number 11, Celeste. Who does not know about this game? If you don't know about this game, you gotta play this game because it's one of the premier platformers. If you like Super Meat Boy, it's kind of like that, which Super Meat Boy is fantastic. It could have easily made this list, but Celeste is one of those games that kind of has a lot with it. It's not just about the gameplay, it's about the character, it's about the story, it's about the atmosphere, it's about so many different things that they did incredibly well in Celeste. And for me personally, I love the challenge of the game. Like, it really tests your stress levels at times. I guess I can just say that because of what they do, but it's ingenious. Anytime that you make a mistake, it's your fault. It's not the game's fault. It's not the control's fault. It's not some type of glitch or something weird that happened. It's your fault. So it makes it like, okay, one more time. Okay, let me just try to get that secret. Let me just try to go there and let me learn about this character as you go along, and self-discovery and all that good stuff. So I love Celeste. I think it's a phenomenal game, and that's why it was just outside my top 10. But honestly, guys, if you wanted to have it in your top 10 or even the best indie game on Switch, I would not argue. But next up, we get into the top 10 here, guys, and we have Cave Story plus Nicalis. We've got to talk about this. This is like the indie game of indie games. You can say that this indie game was one of the ignitions or igniters for the indie revolution, along with Minecraft, of course, and many other games, which I don't count Minecraft as an indie game anymore. But Cave Story Plus is awesome. 2D action adventure game. Tons of levels to explore, over 20 epic boss battles. You got a bunch of different unique weapons to upgrade, but it checks all of those boxes. A lot of these games that you see that we've talked about already, Bastion or Death's Door or Tunic and all that, I think that Cave Story, the original Cave Story, and Cave Story Plus in this one was really motivation. And if you play Cave Story Plus, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because everything in this game is just perfect when it comes down to it. It's such a charming game, but I think that the gameplay is what makes this game shine and why it had to be in my top 10. It's history, it's the gameplay, it's the flow of the game, and it's the character as well. It's just charming all around and very well done. So Cave Story Plus makes it number 10 on my list. Number 9, The Messenger from Sabotage Studio. And The Messenger is one of those games to where if you loved games like Ninja Gaiden back in the day, The Messenger is that. But to be honest, I think it goes above and beyond what Ninja Gaiden had. Clearly that was an influence and inspiration for them, but what they've done, being able to switch back and forth when it comes to the past and the future, and how they've actually laid out the controls and the gameplay and the upgrades and what you get, is just ingenious. It's the right amount of, okay, it can be kind of difficult at times, and then also, okay, this is not BS like Ninja Gaiden was back in the day, where a bird hits you and you go flying off the edge of the screen or whatever the case is with hit stun of the gods. So I do think that The Messenger really brings back that flow, really brings back that childhood, really brings back all those memories I had with those tough as nails action games, those 2D side scrollers, but makes it to where it's manageable, makes it to where it's still challenging, but also really well done and innovative in its own genre with the future and past type of styles and what you get by doing that. It intertwines it seamlessly. So I love that about The Messenger, and that's why it made it into my top 10 here. Number 9, so Messenger deserves every bit of that. Now coming in at number 8 is Cuphead from Studio MDHR. Cuphead could be higher. I mean, honestly, some people think this is the greatest indie game of all time, or definitely a top 3 type of indie game, and I agree. Like, the co-op is awesome. The style is just so well done. It's great. The old school cartoon style, I love it. And I know these guys went through so much to get this game out there, but honestly, Cuphead, I think to me, because of the controls, because of the mechanics, because of the levels, Delicious Last Course DLC, because of what they did with the animation, all of that just provides a unique experience. There's nothing else like it on the platform, like nothing else like it on any other platform. Cuphead is in a league of its own when it comes to 2D shooter action game type of things. I mean, like, it's funny, there's all sorts of cool stuff that goes down doing a deal with the devil. You have to win your life back. Like, it's insane in terms of what they've done here, and the co-op is just so seamlessly handled in terms of drop in, drop out. It's just fun. It's challenging, but it's fair at the same time. You're gonna get your butt kicked over and over, but you're gonna pick up that controller and continue playing. So if you just picked up a Switch, or if you're looking for a great 2D shooter action indie game to play, or just game in general, don't even have to say indie, Cuphead is the game to pick up. Next up at number 7 is Dead Cells from Motion Twin, and Dead Cells is a game that I have the most severe love-hate relationship with. Like, honestly, Dead Cells is a game where I love it. At its peak in terms of what it does, the Castlevania DLC, oh my goodness, that was phenomenal. Everything that they do is just great, but oh my gosh, I hate rogue games, guys. Like, honestly, I really hate rogue games, and that's where Dead Cells, like, it would have been higher up if my hate for rogue games wasn't so high, because there's sometimes when I lose all my upgrades and I lose everything that I got and there's just nothing there, and I'm like, why Dead Cells? Like, if they can just make a normal game and I can go through like 30 levels of this would be like the greatest game of all time, because the controls, the gameplay, the flow, everything is so good in this title. But that's how good Dead Cells is, guys. It's so good. I hate the game, and it's still number 7. So go pick it up. If you haven't played it, get the DLC, get it there. They deserve every bit of it. They sold 10 million copies plus so far. They deserve it all. Motion Twin is phenomenal, but goodness gracious, I hate it when I die in that game and I lose everything that I had. So I hate that. But anyway, let's move into another game that I have a really high love-hate relationship with, but it wasn't as bad, and that is Hades at number 6 from those guys again, Supergiant Games. And Hades does everything that I love about Dead Cells, but the atmosphere and the graphics and the characters and the story just blow it away, in my opinion at least. In my opinion, the story is so well done. It's a step above pretty much every other indie or every other rogue game out there, because no game takes, I love Greek mythology first and foremost, but they take that and they make it, they actually intertwine the reason why you're dying over and over again. They intertwine that to where it makes sense. So when it happens, you don't quite feel as bad, because there's actually a reason for it, because of the character you are, because of the story that you have, because of the setup. It all makes sense at the end of the day. So I am a little bit more, I would say, okay with this, but let's just talk about the weapons. Let's talk about the gameplay. Let's talk about the bosses. Let's talk about the upgrades. All of that is superb. You're going to find your favorite loadout, your favorite type of weapons, your favorite upgrades as you go along, and just have fun blasting things down in these rooms. It's a lot of great pick up and play action with some great story elements. You'll be sweating it out at some of the stuff here, and Hades 2 is coming as well, and that's probably going to be incredible from Supergiant Games. But until then, check out Hades 1 on the Nintendo Switch. And at number 6, now at number 5 and at number 4, we've got 2 games to talk about, and that is the Ori games, Ori and the Blind Forest in at number 5, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, the sequel, in at number 4. And these games, you like Metroidvania? These are pretty much the best. They're right at the top of the list when it comes to Metroidvanias. Well, why is that? Well, one, phenomenal graphics. Out of all the games here, just from a wow factor for an indie title, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is by far one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive, indie game on the platform graphically. It just shines. When you talk about the atmosphere, when you talk about the art style, you talk about just actual graphics in terms of what they're doing with the detail and how it looks, these 2 games are incredible. They're absolutely incredible, especially Will of the Wisp. If you want to talk about the upgrades in the game and the level design, top notch across the board. You want to talk about the story as well, the emotional bind that it will have on you and what happens. It's incredible. Both of these games are well worth it. There's a double pack on the Nintendo Switch you can pick up, or you can try out Ori and the Blind Forest, which is the first game, see how you like that, then jump into Ori and the Will of the Wisp after that if you enjoyed it. But I'm telling you right now, if you love Metroidvania games, you like that style, these two games with the upgrades and the gameplay and the smooth 60 frames per second and everything that it offers, you're going to enjoy them. So for me, I had to put both Ori games here in the top 5. Now, moving on to number 3 is a one-man RPG show, and that is Chained Echoes from Matthias Linda. And it's incredible this game was even a thing, because he did this pretty much by himself over the course of like 7 years, with a little help, of course, here and there. But for the most part, this was him. And Chained Echoes is by far one of the most incredible RPGs that I have played in the last decade. It's that good. It gave me the vibes of an old school Super Nintendo RPG, the classics like Chrono Trigger or like Secret of Mana or like Breath of Fire, these type of games. This is what it's all about, but it adds in a bunch of new things, different stuff as well with the combat system in the game. But the characters are charming, the story is great, the mechs and the gameplay is awesome as well. It integrates things so nicely, and you are going to be absolutely shocked at what one person did, or the small team that he had did. It was just insane in terms of what they were able to accomplish here. So Chained Echoes, because of its incredible story, because of its great gameplay, because of its awesome RPG mechanics with its combat system that keeps you on your toes and keeps you wanting to play, that's the reason why Chained Echoes made its way to a top 3 on my top 25 indie Nintendo Switch titles. Coming in at number 2 is Hollow Knight, and I was very careful with this one, man. I didn't really know, was it going to be Hollow Knight or was it going to be Ori in terms of the top Metroidvania game? But honestly, guys, Hollow Knight is still that dude. And we are all waiting for Silksong, because that's going to replace Hollow Knight as the best Metroidvania game on the platform. But going to Hollow Knight, this game came out early in the Switch's life, and they did everything right with this game. The flow, the atmosphere, the structure, the level, everything, the combat, the content. You get so much stuff for your money. You get all sorts of DLC. You get phenomenal controls. Everything is so pinpoint and accurate. You get a bunch of challenge. This game wraps it all up. This is what it's about when it comes to playing a game. It's got everything that you need, and artistically, it's easily one of the best. Like, I love the designs of the game. It looks weird, but at the same time, it looks very logical for the story they're trying to tell. But the thing that I love the most about this game was the boss battles. Oh my gosh, they're so well done. The platforming and the combat is great, but the boss battles and the patterns that you have to remember are great. They're fair, in my opinion. You've got a chance to win, but you can also get absolutely destroyed before you even know it. So to me, Hollow Knight is the best Metroidvania style game from the indie department on the Nintendo Switch, and number 2 on the list. Coming in at number 1, you guys know it by now, and it is Sea of Stars from Sabotage Studio. The thing that I love about Sea of Stars is that I am a huge believer in a game like Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time, one of my favorite just ideas, the dream team. And while Sea of Stars doesn't hit that level, I think it's the closest thing that I've felt to hitting that level since Chrono Trigger. Now, there's been other games, don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to have a recency bias with this game, but Sea of Stars to me checks all of the boxes in terms of what I want to see. And when it comes to the graphics of the game, I actually find it easier on my eyes and more enjoyable than even the Octopath games or like the HD 2D type of games, because it doesn't grade on your eyes. Like, you can play this on no matter what system you're on. You can play it on your Switch Lite, you can play it on an OLED, you can play it on a huge TV, you can play it on everything on the Nintendo Switch, and you're going to get a very visibly incredible looking game. But the combat system, it's easy to pick up and easy to play, but there's a lot of little things here and there that you need to do to master the systems. There's a lot of crazy characters to talk to. There's a lot of just dope things in this game that kept me playing and playing and playing. And the cool thing about this game, just like Chrono Trigger back in the day, it has a lot of endings based off of what you do, where you go, what you level up, the different side quests you do, and that's exactly what Chrono Trigger did. It's got some Super Mario RPG in it when it comes to timing up your button presses to get an extra hit or two. It's got a great system when it comes to the mechanics of being knocked out and also grinding and leveling. You can't really grind too much in the game, so you have to really rely on your strategy and what you do from a tech perspective, how you use your magic, how you use your attacks, when you do it, how you do it, what cooking you do. There's so many things picked and plucked from other RPGs, but then also optimized to make it the best it can be. So to me, Sea of Stars is one of those games that deserves it to me. Now, of course, this list is going to be wildly debated when it comes to what people think, right? Indie games are so different. There's so many different styles of indie games, but I think Sea of Stars takes everything in terms of what to make an indie RPG or what to make an RPG in this sense and puts it all together better than I've ever played with any other indie game out there. So to me, it had to make it to the top of my list because of all the different endings, because of the combat, because of the easy pick up and play and the easiness of the graphics to really just look at it and you can play it on any platform. And I think it really just puts it together to me as the best indie game. But once again, all of these games could be rearranged, or there could be other games that I'm missing. So I want to talk to you guys in the chat. What do you guys think? What are your top 25 indie games? What games would you have switched around? What is your list? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other top 25 Nintendo Switch lists right here on screen, like my top 25 Nintendo Switch titles or my top 25 underrated gems to buy on the Nintendo Switch. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you for the next one. Peace.